Sometimes Christians really like movies that they shouldn't like as much as they do. One such movie is Disney's Remember the Titans. 20 years ago, this movie was in the DVD collection of nearly every Christian home that had a DVD player. People still talk about this movie as being a favorite. I get why people like the movie. I also get why people like Krispy Kreme donuts. But that doesn't mean that we should be eating them. The problem with this movie is that it tells us what we want to hear instead of what we ought to hear. Remember what Proverbs 29 verse 5 sort of says. A movie that flatters spreads a net before your feet. Remember the Titans is not a true movie, but it presents itself as true. It's not even factual, but that doesn't really matter actually. Yes, it's based on a true story. A lot of people think that this means that the movie is true, that the events represented in the movie actually happened. But that's not what it means at all. The real story isn't a movie that anyone would want to see. Don't forget the words based on. Based on a true story means that the writer, director, and producers were inspired by something that happened. And then they made a movie. So here is what is actually true. Coach Boone was an African-American football coach that took an integrated high school team to the state championships and won in 1971. He did integrate the buses before leaving for camp, and they did go to Gettysburg. There is some debate as to whether there was any racial tension in the camp. Many of the players and coaches say that the tension in the camp was not racial, it was about trying to make the team. The screenwriter says that they just don't want to admit it. Here's what you need to know. Screenwriters continually ask themselves, how can I create more tension? How can I create more conflict, more drama? And then they write it in. It doesn't matter if it actually happened or not. So here's just a few ways that the movie makers diverged from the actual events in order to create more drama. T.C. Williams did not desegregate in 1971 when the movie is set, but in 1963. What happened in 1971 was the merging of 3 separate high schools into one. This was hugely disruptive, but it didn't lead to all the angst and anger about race that the movie depicts. But because of the merging of 3 schools, T.C. Williams had a much larger talent pool than any other school in the state. This is a big reason why they won the championship that year. They didn't win because they overcame the divisions created by prejudice and bigotry. Drama is created by close games and big comebacks, and the threat of a coach getting fired if he loses one game. So that's what happens in the movie. In reality, not only did the Titans go undefeated in 1971, they outscored their opponents by 357 to 45. They had 9 shutouts in 13 games. In the last game, the championship, they were not down by a touchdown at the half. They won the state championship game 27 to nothing. We wouldn't want to see a movie in which Goliath defeats 13 Davids, so they didn't make that one. None of the teams they played against were all white teams. All of them were integrated. Jerry Bertier did get into a car accident, but not till after the season, and he played in the title game. They make it happen before the big game so that they can increase the tension and the drama. It's based on a true story, but it's not a true story. And that isn't really a problem. This isn't a documentary. In the case of this kind of a movie, the filmmakers have one job, and that is to entertain us. And based on its popularity and all those DVDs that Christian families bought, they did their job well. The problem is that this movie isn't true. But didn't you just say, yes, I said that it isn't a problem that the movie isn't factual. But it is a problem when it's not telling the truth. It presumes to be dealing with a serious issue, bigotry, prejudice, race. It pretends to present reality, but it doesn't at all. It's telling us lies to make us feel good. When your friends don't tell you to call off your engagement with your fiancé because they know she's manipulative and two-faced, that's not good. When your doctor and your family tell you that you're going to be fine when you only have a short time left, that's not good. When your mechanic, knowing that you don't want to spend any money on it, tells you that your car is in good working order and that you shouldn't have any trouble on your cross-country trip. That's not good. That's what Remember the Titans does, and it's not good. In the movie, we find that there are two kinds of people: good people and bad people. In the world of the movie, the bad people are defined as bigots, and the good people are defined as not bigots. Through the movie, we watch the goings-on between these two groups. As the story progresses, some people move from the bad side to the good side. Coach Boone is good. He doesn't see race at all. Coach Yost is mostly good. He's mad, but it doesn't have too much to do with race. He's mad about not getting the job. And in the end, he repents even of this understandable sin. Cheryl Yost, the little girl, is also good. She doesn't like Coach Boone or his daughter, but that has nothing to do with race. The former because of her daddy's job, and the latter because she doesn't like football and likes to play with dolls instead. Both White Jerry and Black Julius are prejudiced, but they come over to the good side. They even become best friends. Louis Lasek is good from the start. He loves everybody for who they are. Ronnie's Sunshine Bass. He's an army brat. His father says, "The way I see it, if these boys can fight a war together, they can play football together." Jerry's mom comes over later in the movie, and at the very end, the beautiful Emma Hoyt concedes that she's going to start trying to join the good side. Sadly, some people never come over to the light. Ray Budd, and Coach Tyrell, and Coach Tabor. Ooh, he's really bad. But here's the key. Which side are you on? Where does this movie place the viewer? Right from the very beginning. This is what's wrong with this movie. You are placed squarely on the side of the good people, and we like this movie because of it. It affirms how we think of ourselves, or how we want to be. We get a little emotional whoosh every time one of the bad people sees the light and comes over from the dark side and joins us with the good people. We shake our heads and quietly tisk-tisk when the bad people do and say bigoted things. That's not like us. This movie confirms the viewer's already held opinions, and it affirms their idea of themselves and the world. It tells us that racism isn't much of a problem and that I'm certainly no part of it. This is a lie. These issues are big and they are complex, and we all struggle with prejudice of one kind or another. And how do I know that? Because, as my father often says, you have a belly button. There are a lot of movies that don't describe reality. Marvel superhero movies, James Bond, and rom-coms, they don't. But the problem with Remember the Titans and movies like it, many of them made by Disney, by the way, is that it presumes to reveal the truth about reality when they just tell us what we want to hear, something that's simple and feels good. Is there really a correlation between football victories and improved race relationships in a community? In the movie, the more games the Titans win, the less racist the community becomes. Remember the restaurant scenes? Refusing to admit the black players in the beginning and giving free food to the same players later on. What if your local high school team sucks? What if you don't have a local high school team? Is there no hope for you and your community? Here is a review of Remember the Titans from Dove.org. Well, hooray for Hollywood! At last, here is a story about overcoming bigotry told without profanity, exploitive sex, or excessive violence. What's more, it's downright entertaining. Remember the Titans is about overcoming ignorance and hatred. I suppose if you looked hard enough, you could find something that is in conflict with your own personal view of biblical teaching. But we approve of this film because it represents a concerted effort to tell an uplifting story without the usual ratio of obscene and profane material. If that sounds like a Hallmark card commercial, well, what's wrong with leaving the theater feeling hopeful and satisfied? Isn't that the purpose of art? To uplift the spirit of man? Oh boy. This reviewer, in an attempt to praise the movie, puts his finger on exactly what's wrong with it. It's like a Hallmark card commercial. It's sentimental, and that's bad. I made a video about it. This movie doesn't offer a holistic experience that's realistic and true. It gets rid of everything but a limited range of emotions, the ones that we want to feel. To do this, it has to oversimplify. Everything that doesn't serve the whoosh goes. It's not just the reality of swearing, sex, and violence that has been stripped away. It's the complexities of sin, in this case racism, that are also stripped away. Sentimentalism never leads to action. What do I need to change about myself after watching the Titans? I was on the good side from the beginning. I'm good to go. There are good things in this world, and there is hope. These are part of reality, but only a part. We should not praise a movie that simplifies and trivializes complex and serious things in order to bring us to a place of contentment. Contentment is an inappropriate response to the injustices that we see in our society. Heaven is not here yet, and we gain heaven only by the tremendous price that was paid for our redemption, and not by us. It does us no good to have a Hallmark view of sin, because then we have a Hallmark view of grace. As we watch this movie, we occupy the position of innocence, and all that ignorance and hatred is eliminated simply by a championship season. Sentimentalism cheapens redemption. And no, the purpose of art is not to uplift the spirit of man. Sometimes it will be uplifted when art does what it actually is supposed to do. That is, to hold a mirror up to reality so as to broaden and deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world, not to blind us into complacency. Unless the movie is just for fun. But remember, the Titans doesn't claim to be this kind of movie. So, now I've ruined Remember the Titans for you, but I don't want to leave you without a replacement for your movie collection. Crash came out 5 years after the Titans. It's an antidote. You need to watch this movie once for every time that you watch Titans. This movie will not let you be comfortable. Watching it can reveal some things about yourself that you'd probably rather not admit are there. The movie will leave you thinking, though, and that's a good place to be. It's got hard moments, but it also has some beautiful moments. Like life. Let's look at what Dove.org has to say about Crash. While some of it may be true, I felt it was over the top. The acting and the cinematography were very well done. However, the film generates a very negative perception of America and its interracial relationships. I was completely shocked by the amount of cursing, but I did understand that a majority of it was from two street thugs who used that language on a constant basis. There was also a sex scene revealing a woman's breasts after a scene where a woman is sexually molested by a police officer. This film cannot be Dove approved at least 87 times over. There you have it. I understand that we might not want to watch a movie that's full of swearing or contains even a little nudity, but this movie takes you into reality and it doesn't leave you feeling comfortable. It doesn't say that everything and you is just fine. It tells you a piece of the truth even if it's difficult to hear. One of the functions of art is to challenge us. This movie is a work of art. Happy viewing. Oh wait, yeah, that's not right. Till next time.